Today we celebrate Corpus Christi Sunday, also known as the solemnity of the most holy body and blood of Christ. It's an opportunity in the church's liturgical year to recall this great gift of the Eucharist, which is Jesus himself. We have also Holy Thursday to celebrate this when Jesus instituted this great sacrament, but it's kind of overshadowed by the other events that happened during that week. So we have this other time during the summer in which we can celebrate this great gift. And so it's no surprise that today for this feast we read from John chapter 6. This is clearest teaching of what the church believes about the Eucharist, that it is truly and really and substantially the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. And along with several other passages in the scriptures, this becomes really clear. And it's really unfortunate that some Christians will deny that Jesus is present in the Eucharist because the words of John 6 are very clear. And the only way you can understand them in a figurative way is to do like intellectual somersaults and try to come up with things and to not take the text literally. So today I just want to leave you with one important point. It's going to take me a while to explain all of it, but the point is this: if we are prepared, we should receive the Eucharist and Holy Communion frequently. If we are prepared, we should receive frequently, and by frequently, I mean even more than once a week. And so the saints tell us that there are two types of people that should receive the Eucharist: the perfect and the imperfect. The perfect so that they may stay perfect, and the imperfect so that they may become perfect. And this is like a relative perfection because no one is perfect this side of heaven. Or we can put it in a different way. The strong need to receive the Eucharist as well as the weak. The strong that they may not grow weak, and the weak that they may grow strong. Or those who are well and those who are sick. Those who are well so that they may not fall sick, and those who are sick that they may become well. And so the Eucharist is for all of us. It's an important gift that Jesus gives for our spiritual well-being. And I said if we are prepared, because there are times when we should not receive communion. So I want to speak just briefly about that. If we have not kept the Eucharistic fast an hour before Holy Communion, or if we are conscious of a serious sin that we have not gone to confession for, or if we are living in some sort of irregular situation, perhaps with our marriage, all of these situations, we should refrain from receiving communion. We should still come to Mass, but we should not receive communion. And this is based on the teaching of St. Paul in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 11. He says, everyone should examine himself before coming forward to receive, lest he incur judgment and eat and drink judgment upon himself. So it's for our spiritual good that we don't receive communion when we shouldn't. And this is also why the church has the right to deny certain people to the reception of Holy Communion. But this only happens in really extraordinary circumstances, when people are like publicly in a state of sin that they are unrepentant of. And the most obvious Catholic politicians who advocate for positions that are morally evil, these people should be warned that they should not present themselves for communion. And if they do, then they should be denied communion, because it's for their spiritual good not to receive communion. And it brings scandal upon the church when these people do this. And there's enough scandal today. So, enough of that. Let's get back to the reasons. Why should we receive communion frequently? Why should we present ourselves for communion if we are prepared? Well, there are many reasons, many effects of the Eucharist. And here, I just want to mention three of them. The first one is that receiving Holy Communion gives us an increase in sanctifying grace. And this is the life of God that Jesus Christ has won for us through his saving death and glorious resurrection. And this grows within our souls. There are two types of sacraments. There's the sacraments of the dead, the spiritually dead, and the sacraments of the spiritually living. Baptism and confession impart spiritual life to those who don't have it any longer. But the Eucharist and the other sacraments help that life flourish. So we can imagine like someone wants to plant a flower garden. Well, first they would make some sort of boundaries, then they would remove all the weeds or whatever is there, and then they would plant the beautiful flowers. And that's the same thing with our spiritual life, that once we've been baptized, once we receive the sacrament of reconciliation, then Holy Communion allows us to grow and develop a beautiful soul. And it's so beautiful that St. Catherine of Siena, when she once saw a soul in a state of grace, she said that if all of us saw it, the beauty of this would be so great that we would do anything to keep that beauty within our souls. And the value of sanctifying grace is immense. They say that just a little bit of sanctifying grace is worth more than all the riches of the world. All the mines full of gold, of precious jewels, costly wood and forests, and all the hidden wealth, that's nothing compared to sanctifying grace that we can receive for free here at Holy Communion. And so the Eucharist gives us sanctifying grace. The second thing that Holy Communion does is it keeps us from serious sin. Just like when we eat healthy food, it keeps our bodies physically healthy. So too, when we receive Holy Communion, we stay spiritually nourished. It's kind of like the tree of life that was in the Garden of Eden that Adam and Eve ate from. When they ate from that tree of life, mortality. And now we have the new tree of life, which is the cross of Jesus Christ. And the fruit of this tree of life is the Holy Eucharist, which protects us and preserves us in two ways. It weakens our passions and it protects us from the assaults of the devil. It weakens our passions like this. When the Israelites were crossing into the promised land, they had to go through the river Jordan, which I was showing some pictures is not very wide, or at least it's not today, but I don't know what it was like thousands of years ago. But they put the Ark of the Covenant on the shoulders of these 4 Jewish priests, and they went into the waters, and the river stopped flowing, and the rest of the people passed through. And that's what happens when we receive Holy Communion. The presence of Jesus in our soul holds back all of those evil tendencies that we have because of original sin. It also protects us from the assaults of the devil. We heard in our sequence today about the Paschal Lamb. When they were escaping Egypt, they slaughtered the lamb, they took the blood and put it on their doorpost. It meant that the destroying angel would pass by their houses. And so too, when we have received Holy Communion upon our lips, it protects us from the evil one. And St. John Chrysostom says that after we have received communion, to the devil we appear like lions breathing fire, and he is afraid of us. The third effect of Holy Communion is that it unites us to God. We heard in our gospel reading Jesus said, "Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me and I in him." It gives us this connection with the Lord, and it's very important. And this also helps us increase the virtues of faith, hope, and charity. Faith, because we know it demands faith that we believe in the Eucharist. It's not like we can see Jesus physically present in the Eucharist. We have to believe it through our faith. And when we exercise that faith, when we receive Holy Communion, our faith can grow. It also gives us hope, because Jesus tells us, "Whoever eats this bread will live forever." In fact, he says, "Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have life within you. And whoever eats this will have eternal life, and I will raise him on the last day." And then it also gives us an increase in charity, which is the holy love of God. And it just says, like a house that's on fire sets on fire the houses next to it, so too Jesus' Sacred Heart, which is a furnace of love for us. When we receive it into our souls, then our hearts become inflamed with the divine love and help us to experience this great love that he has. So those are the 3 effects. It first gives us sanctifying grace, it protects us from serious sin, and it unites us to God. And so we should always, if we have the opportunity, receive communion very frequently. And this is the reason why we should treasure this immense gift and not go without it. It's why we shouldn't walk away and stop going to Mass, because this is a great gift. I just want to conclude with a quote from Mother Teresa that it's attributed to her. She said, "Once you understand the Eucharist, you can never leave the church, not because the church won't let you, but because your heart won't let you." You can't leave the church if you understand what the Eucharist is, not because the church won't let you, because your heart won't let you. Because once we understand what this immense gift is, we would never want to do without it. And so we should always treasure this, and we should never starve at the banquet of a generous God. Jesus gives us his body and blood as our spiritual food, and we should always receive it with great humility and respect, and receive it frequently to give us that spiritual life that he longs to impart to us.